This is the Boys podcast from TV Podcast Industries. We're on the finale, The Boys Season 2, Episode 8, What I Know.
Now, remember what I told you.
Don't be a...
Welcome back, boys and girls, to the finale discussion of The Boys Season 2, Episode 8, What I Know. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow boys and girls. Remember, an AR-15 and meep meep no more. I am one of your hosts, John.
And rounding out this group of misfits of 7 of boys and girls and industrialists, I'm Chris.
Great to be back on a finale discussion of The Boys.
Definitely. Really so happy for this show and this season. I've really enjoyed it. It's been fun. It's been topical. It's been bloody. It's been irreverent. It's been violent. But it's just been so good. So really so happy that it's got season 3 as well.
And we want to say a huge thank you to all of you that have joined us for our discussions about The Boys Season 2. It's been great getting all your feedback in, all your thoughts, and your reviews. We have another 5-star review for The Boys from Busybone3 over on Apple Podcasts. Busybone says, "This is what you want from a podcast. 5 stars. Straight to the point, all about the show and none of the unnecessary details about who their barbers are and not needed information about other stuff in general. These guys are focusing on the show and none of the trash we don't want to hear. I wish all podcasts were like this. Just the show and nothing else. Thanks, guys. I'll be listening to the rest of your podcast from here on." Thanks so much, Busybone.
Yeah, thank you, Busybone. Really great to get your feedback and your review over there on Apple Podcasts. Thank you. Thanks so much. I think we always say, and it's no harm in repeating it here, all your comments are really appreciated from anyone, whether it's leaving a review like Busybone has, whether it's the feedback, you name it. We're just really happy to engage with the community that we have following the shows that we love. So yeah, thanks so much, Busybone.
Absolutely. And we do try to keep the podcasts about the shows that we're covering, because it's always a big lie when you see people go, we're talking about episode 10 of such and such a show, and then they never actually get into talking about the show. 45 minutes later, they're still talking about who their barbers are. I like that. That's a pointed reference to someone particularly I don't know. So I presume there's a podcast out there that talks about their own barbers more often than not. We try not to talk about that. Thanks so much, Busybone. If anybody else wants to leave us a review, go over to your podcast catcher of choice. If it allows you to put reviews on there, I think Podchaser, Apple Podcasts are the 2 big ones, and Stitcher as well. You can pop on over there, leave us a review. We'd love to hear your thoughts about the show, especially if they're 5-star thoughts like those ones. We also want to give a huge thank you. It's just after the 1st of the month, so we want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters who joined us from the 1st of September. Selima Kisler, William Boggs, Donald Dennis, Damian Roberts, Skyrocker, and Marianne Morris. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. Every penny that you've put towards the podcast does go to producing the best show we can. So thank you so much for your thoughtful support over on Patreon.
Yeah, thanks so much to all of you who've joined since September. It's really great to get your support. We really appreciate it. It really does help us keep the podcast running in terms of the outlays that we need to do. So your support is really appreciated. But also, not only can you head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries and support us there, you can support us in any way you want to. Most importantly is please subscribe to the podcast on your boy or girl podcast catcher of choice. And of course, you can rate, leave a review there. And of course, feedback through as well is really appreciated.
Yes, thank you so much to all our Patreon supporters. Yes, you help us keep the lights on, the hamsters spinning in their wheels that help us keep our mics powered. Seriously, I have a hamster farm right behind this the screen and behind this mic that keeps it going.
Have to stop calling me a hamster, Chris.
I know, but it's so fun, especially when we fill your cheeks full of food and you just puff out.
Absolutely, a little chipmunk.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Let's get into our discussion about The Boys Season 2, Episode 8, What I Know. This episode was written by Rebecca Sonnenfield. This is Rebecca's 4th episode of the show, so we've talked about her quite a lot since the first season of the show. Wrote 2 episodes of Season 1, including co-writing the season finale, and she also wrote Episode 2 of this season of the show.
Yeah, Rebecca has been a busy lady writing away, scribing away for The Boys this season. And what great stuff she's been doing as well.
Absolutely, yeah, really. I'm trusted, obviously, writer in the writer's room to get part of the season 1 finale as the co-writer and to get the season finale for season 2 as well. Very cool. The episode was directed by Alex Graves. This is his first episode of The Boys, but he directed 7 episodes of the awesome Homeland and 6 episodes of the even more amazing Game of Thrones, including the episode The Mountain and the Viper. A favourite.
Ooh, yes, eye squishing and head squishing in that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, that's where that mountain gets kind of zombified because of the poison, because he dies, and then the Meister, Cersei's Meister, does a few unnatural things, as they say, to him.
Yes, spoilers for Game of Thrones, but hopefully you've watched all that show because it was really good fun. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the episode?
Sure. With the sound of exploding heads still faintly echoing in everyone's ears, the boys need to take the fight to Vought and its superheroes. Starlight and Hughie land on their feet as a disgruntled A-Train provides records of Stormfront and her Nazi past that were held by the Church of the Collective. Dishing the dirt on all media types never tasted so sweet. But Becca shows up on Butcher's doorstep and begs for his help following Ryan's abduction by Homelander and Stormfront. The boys agree to back Butcher and Ryan's rescue. Together they finally face off against Homelander and Stormfront. But in the confrontation, as Stormfront strangles Becca, Ryan's uncontrolled powers inflict a heavy damage on Stormfront, but are lethal for his mum. With the arrival of Homelander, Billy Butcher, along with some help from Queen Maeve, protects Ryan after promising Becca he would keep him safe. As things return to normal for the boys and Vought International renounce Stormfront, bring Starlight back into the fold and maintain Homelander in the 7, 2 heads pop across the city. Homelander's jerk atop a skyscraper, and the more bloody kind, as the brains and skull fragments decorate the office of the head of the Church of the Collective. Outside the church, an ambitious senator looks on.
Yes, a very ambitious senator looking on there. That's definitely setting up season 3. Before we spoil anything more, we probably spoiled a lot of it there at the synopsis, but before we spoil anything more, let's get into our full protagonist, antagonist, and outstanding moment discussion. Chris, do you want to give us your boys moment for the episode, your protagonist moment?
Of course. So, basically, our opener said it best. Butcher has to remember to don't be a C word.
There you go.
And unfortunately, for the majority of this, the first half, maybe 3/4 of this episode, I hated Butcher. Him going to Edgar, the way he the deal he makes and how he makes it, and the all that setup when you know it's coming. Now, when you know the deal he's made and how he's lying, and more importantly, how he lies on his brother's grave, on his, on Lenny's, was it Lenny's soul? On Lenny's memory. He doesn't even do the whole cross fingers behind the back.
Yeah.
Anything like that. It's just straight up to her face lying. And for that whole section up until, well, basically until he goes back on that word, when they do get the kid, you're like, no, you're despicable.
Absolutely.
And it's just, it got me so, it really did get me, because I was like, I know in the comic books, he is what he says he is. And he reminds himself not to be it. But they kind of double down in different parts of this episode of him being that. I think we discussed it last week as well, when he went to see Vogelbaum. He has doubled down onto that, which or doubled in. He's accepted his place as that bad guy.
Yeah, I think he really sees an opportunity here to get what he wants, which is get his wife back and do away with the kid, effectively. I like how they underline in this episode, though. I thought it was really, really smart when Becca and Billy arrive at the cabin to pick up Ryan, effectively. They really underline that Billy has no concept who this kid is, because Ryan's looking at him going, who's that guy? And Becca introduces him as her husband. She's never once told him that she had a husband, because that's in there. And Butcher's never had any opportunity to spend any time with this kid either. So the idea of him giving up this, this image in his mind, which is a super child, a child with superpowers brought about by V, that makes lots of sense to Billy, because he can detach himself completely from this connection with the child, basically, until he meets him. And then, as we see, as you say, Chris, the rest of the episode, he starts to kind of roll back on that a bit and starts to become a bit more human, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's only at the very end of this where he essentially reminds him, like, so we'll get into the details of how it happens, but it's basically when he hands over the kid to Mallory. Mm-hmm. And he first gives the kid the cross, not the cross, the symbol of St. Christopher.
The St. Christopher's medal,
my patron saint.
Yes.
the patron saint of travelers. My God, I used to have one of them. Like, literally, one member of my family or two were super religious, and I'd always get one every couple of years, a patron saint of Christopher symbol.
That's it.
And I'd be like, cool, yeah. So now you remember, he's the patron saint of travelers. He'll look after you on your travels. And I'm like, I was like a kid going, I don't travel anywhere.
I don't even have a car yet.
On my travels to school.
That was.
I don't cross rivers, and I don't need to jump on a man's back, but sure. Anyway, he gives up that symbol, and that's potentially one of the things that he's held dearest to, because it literally, he says it was given to him, and we can assume it was given to him back before maybe one of his first tours with Mallory, back when he first married Becca. It was early on, so this has been with him for years. This is a token of his love, her love to him, etc. So giving that up to the kid, and then the only question I have is giving the child to Mallory.
Okay.
Is it because he doesn't think he can protect the kid in his own way?
Yeah.
Or is it, I know the kid would be safe, but I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I completely agree. He started off pretty bad. I wonder whether, when he owns up to it to Becca and she's actually really forgiving, the fact that he owns up is probably, he realized he has sworn on his dead brother, the promise that he's getting the kid back for her. So I'm sure that's weighing on him. I think that's kind of what I read in that situation. I think, though, there's a great shot where you're just for a very split second where he's over Becca's dead body and he looks towards Ryan. Oh my goodness, what a glare. I mean,
yeah.
I think Carl Urban does that so well. Absolutely. I was thinking, he's not promising anything now that she's died, and certainly because it was Ryan's fault.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's Homelander that challenges that. It's Homelander that's telling him, what do you want to keep the boy for? He killed your wife.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can see it in Butcher's face. For a moment, he's kind of going, yeah, you're right, but you're also Homelander. you're also the guy that I will definitely kill at some point in the future. So maybe this innocent child doesn't deserve to pay for it at all. It all just plays out really well in Carl Urban's face. Really good moments for him.
And I think Queen Maeve has a lot to do with that as well, because, her speech to Homelander may have just sort of convinced Billy Butcher to pick Ryan up and hold him and walk past Homelander, where she says that, I don't care what you will do to me, my family, to Eleanor, or whatever, so long as people see the monster that you are and that you no longer are loved by anyone ever again.
Exactly.
And I would say if anything would resonate with Billy Butcher is the idea of putting Homelander in his place. If it's not with him killing Homelander. It's that, you take away what Homelander craves.
Yeah.
So I think maybe there was an element of that as well. So
absolutely, and that's also what Becca was giving to Ryan. Becca was constantly affirming that what Ryan needed, so he didn't turn into Homelander, was love. He needed a family connection. He needed what was going on. But as you say, Chris, this is the open question here. He's giving Ryan over to Mallory to take care of Ryan and putting him away and keeping him safe. Does that mean he now has no familial connection? He has no love anymore? Will he just go into a different type of facility to be taken care of? So, so has Becca's plan gone by the wayside now, or will Billy occasionally check in and take care of him? Will he be taken off to go off with Billy's aunt, maybe something like that, to be taken care of? But yeah, if he's going into another facility just because it's controlled by Mallory, does that mean it's going to be any better than a vault facility? I don't know. Yeah, but it's kind of a big question from the show, really, towards the end of it.
Yeah, are they going to create the anti-Homelander, the away seer, if you will?
That
there
took
you
a
go.
long
You had to think
time to
about
get
that
me.
one. You had to think it's a thinker.
I have edited about 10 seconds of silence there while I thought about that one. But let's talk about the actual deal, Chris, because this is what was going on in the episode. The actual deal that Butcher makes with Edgar is that Edgar will pick up Ryan from the house. They'll get Homelander out of there. Edgar and his team will go in, pick up Ryan from the house, and take him away without Becca ever finding out, effectively. And Butcher says, I'll just smooth it over with her afterwards, kind of thing. And Edgar has a very good response to it. He's going to go, no, she's going to bang down my door in a couple of years' time when she finds out what actually happened, and she's going to want a child back. And Butcher kind of goes, no, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. That's a really horrible thing for him to say, because he absolutely knows, because she effectively kicked him to the curb when he refused to take Ryan with him and her when they were going to go on the run. She said she'd rather go back and live in this Truman Show type world if this happened. So yeah, what a weird deal. Well, not a weird deal, but it's definitely a Butcher type deal to make, because he doesn't want Ryan. But
as Edgar says, he says, and you call me ruthless. Mm-hmm. It is showing the ruthlessness of Billy Butcher, and even to the point with all those poor SWAT team members effectively getting sliced and diced in the cabin as he goes ahead with the deal, with the exception that they're not there. Exactly. And you just seeing Homelander covered in blood after sort of just going through all of them was pretty grim.
You can tell that was his interrogation technique was just keep asking them questions that they probably don't know the answers
until he runs out, and then he's not gotten any answers.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start with a pinky and work our way up. Although one thing I will say is, if he had have gone with the original plan, Homelander would have caught them.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was there, 20 seconds, 30 seconds after the guys in the suits arrived?
Yeah, absolutely. Because they were supposed to be backup for Becca and Butcher taking Ryan out of the place. They were supposed to be surrounding them, kind of thing, to get them out of there. Or for Butcher, at least. So they arrived just before the SWAT team arrived. So you're absolutely right.
But anyway, so that was one, and then again, as you said, that meeting with Edgar was one bit for me, which is, I would have liked to see just that kind of, I know you probably got one guy with a 50 cal with a kind of sniper rifle trained on him, more than one.
Absolutely.
I would have liked to see a red dot, another red dot, another red dot, and then where there's 40 red dots just all trained up Butcher, and you just kind of get that moment.
Yeah.
But again, you can't argue with that scene, because you have Giancarlo Esposito and Carl Urban. One is a scene stealer, the other is a scene stealer, and you put them together, and that's just this tense, fantastic kind of moment where technically it's two sides that should not be meeting, should not be talking, making a deal, and it's just fantastic.
Absolutely, it's the CEO of Vought. This should be the moment that Billy reaches over the table to snap his neck, but he can give him what he wants. So, last thing I'll say about these scenes, about the whole episode there with Butcher and his son and Homelander and Maeve convincing Homelander to give it up. You know, I thought it was a little bit heavy-handed to have Homelander hear the voices of the chanting crowd in his head when Maeve was saying, and I'll take away everybody that loves you and make sure that you'll never be loved again. I thought it was just a little bit, we didn't really need it. We're only 8 episodes of the show. Like, we know Homelander needs this. But for Maeve to say that and then Homelander kind of wistfully look in the air and have the chanting of the crowd going, Homelander, Homelander, I just thought it was a little bit too much in this particular type of episode.
I don't know. For me, what I would say on that is it relates probably to my antagonist moment, actually, because I think it's actually everything that Homelander's gone through. You're reminded what he actually craves.
Well, yeah, okay.
Effectively, given that you've been associating him with white supremacists and ex-Nazis.
Yeah.
So I think...
And country leaders, yeah.
That's what I think was really behind that. And so I didn't mind that.
I will just say, I think where they're planting the seeds now of a psychotic break.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of what they're doing, where he will, in season 3, have that psychotic break, go a bit crazy, hear voices.
Well, yeah.
Because you kind of get that in the ending shots as well.
Absolutely, but just to clarify, what he actually says to Maeve is, I will kill everyone. He doesn't say, I'll kill everyone you love, or I'll kill Billy and everyone that he loves, and all his friends and all his family. Yeah. He says, I will kill everyone. So he's saying the planet here. He's saying he's going to go after everybody and destroy them all if she releases the footage, because he has nothing left to live for, basically. And she turns it on him saying, well, I'll take away everything, anybody that will have love for you, and knowing that I'll go to my grave happy, is kind of the way she says it. But, you know, yeah, she is kind of putting up the entire world versus he'll never have anybody to love is the kind of two options that she puts there. So he is already on that psychotic break route there.
Yeah,
but anyway.
Potentially. Although I didn't take Queen Maeve saying it along those lines. I thought he did mean, I'll kill everyone you love.
Nope.
And her response to that was, I'll make sure no one loves you ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He won't want to kill everyone.
I think he's talking about the wish fulfillment of that moment at the press conference where he opened his eyes and killed everybody at the press conference in his mind. But he's saying, I will do that. I'll kill everybody on the planet.
I can see that for sure. I can see that. Yeah. I just didn't take it in that way.
But is that it on your protagonist moment, Chris?
That is it.
John, do you want to take us on to yours?
It's the girls get it done.
Oh, yes.
It is Starlight, Kimiko, and Queen Maeve going to town on Stormfront, to be honest. I just thought it was a really great moment, a really just empowering moment with all the girls getting it done on the Nazi girl. And I thought this was just really good. I mean, the fight in itself was just so good. I mean, a few bits from it that I really liked. I mean, I liked Stormfront's entrance where she effectively electrocutes the car up in the air and down. I'm surprised anyone came out of that alive, but nonetheless,
I thought that might have had us lose either Becca or MM there.
Yeah,
I thought MM was the most likely person to be lost.
Yeah, it looked pretty bad, but I liked some of the use of her powers, like where she was being held from behind, and she just directed her lightning behind to get the person off her. And also where then, you know, she really was being done in by the three girls, the three ladies, and she just, it's almost like she did an electric press up just to push herself off the ground to shoot into the air. I really thought that was cool. Yeah. But we do also see here Kimiko having her neck snapped by Stormfront. And there was that moment where we both, certainly when we were watching it, where we both gasped. And then all of a sudden I was like, no, this has happened before and she will come back alive. Yeah. And I was trying to think, but is that real? And until she did, I was like, oh, thank God I was right.
It wasn't just a one-time deal.
Exactly. So that was, that was good to remember. Yeah. But initially there was that big inhale of breath going, oh my goodness, they've killed Kimiko.
Exactly. They spaced it out enough from season 1 that it just wasn't in the back of my head at all that this could happen, you know? So
no, literally, I gasped, inhaled, clutched my pearls, went, oh my, went, yeah! Literally, as you said, because it was so far removed that I was like, I know they're going to end big. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to end this big? And I was, because I kind of had that vision in my head. They've killed the female. And then literally all the guys just, the boys kind of just go and because then I was in my head going, Starlight takes over for the female. It's just like they're diverging from the comic books completely here now. So it was like, yeah, go for it. Like, Starlight can dye her hair black, become the new female of the boys, and literally, let's do it. And I was just I can't remember what film it was or show, but essentially it was when you had the super powerful guy and all the underpowered protagonist, and they all just start wailing on the antagonist at the end because he's just beating them all, and then that's it. Like they snap and they all just go and they just destroy him. I can't remember.
I don't know, but it reminded me of Shaun of the Dead with the cricket bat and the golf club, where they're just going off on the zombie, and so that's kind of how I took it.
Right.
And the way they were just, the shots, and they were the punching of just the different shots and the punching of Stormfront. I was going to say Stormlight then. That would be an interesting
That's a team
match.
up for
yeah,
next
exactly.
season, or alternate universe version.
I think as well on the girls, I just want to pull out Queen Maeve, because I know we've had feedback, and to be honest, feedback that I would have agreed with about her not really having a big storyline. She's had one going through with Elena and with her treatment at the hands of Homelander. But I really liked her arc in this episode, actually, because, given her sort of breakup sex last week, I kind of thought her response to Hughie and Starlight was actually really felt natural. Mm-hmm. And I really liked then that after the release of Stormfront's file from Church of the Collective to the papers and the media and stuff. Mm-hmm. I like that they just focused on her as Stormfront was coming in, having a hissy fit in Vought Tower, because it felt really good then when she showed up to help Starlight out, and dare I say it, and Kimiko, but also then that extra step of her confronting Homelander. I was like, it all paid off for me. All this through storyline of Queen Maeve here. I really wish we'd seen more of this, because it's like she's an awesome character when she has this kind of arc, even just in an episode. So I really wanted to give a shout out to Queen Maeve there as well.
Definitely. I think that's the one thing I love about the writing of this episode. We've actually set up from the start of this season, we've set up the fact that Stormfront is almost an insurmountable soup. She's someone that's been around since the very beginning. She's as powerful as Homelander, basically. We've seen how powerful she is. Nobody's been able to beat her before. She kind of dips in and out of the limelight, as the way that she kind of hides herself over the many years that she's been around. So I love that it was her versus the boys for a second. They all took out all their weapons, shot all the weapons at them. She just threw her hand and knocked them all out. There was a really odd moment from Frenchie where he shouts at the top of his voice, "We have to get back to the car to get that weapon that I built to kill Stormfront. That's the only hope that we have." So she blows up the car because he's told her exactly where it is. But then we have, Kimiko coming back from the dead, effectively, to jump on her back and beat her. We have the great moment with Starlight starting off the battle, because Stormfront's arrived. Kimiko's about to go and attack her, but Starlight knows if Stormfront attacks Kimiko straight on, then Kimiko has no chance. So Starlight instantly takes up against her. It's a really powerful moment. And yes, Queen Maeve's arrival feels, obviously it's not exactly the same, but it really does feel to me like they were trying to emulate Wonder Woman's arrival in Batman v Superman. That moment where you have the camera pans to the person you did not expect to appear there. The music starts and Queen Maeve is instantly in the scene going, I'm here to join the team of the boys. Like, it really felt like she is just suddenly empowered to be able to join our good guy team now, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's the feeling they were going for. Certainly didn't have the music of Batman v Superman for Wonder Woman, but that's almost impossible because that was fantastic.
I'm right there with you guys. This for me, like, if John hadn't have taken this would have been one of my biggest points for the episode.
We let him go first this time. Our fellow boys and girls, we let him go first to choose his points, so he got his ones in first. That's what happens.
No, and I can now just also hear, don't stop me now, because I'm having such a good time.
Which is the Shaun of the Dead. That is the Shaun of the Dead soundtrack to that.
And I could just hear that in my head. This for me was great, and not just for the callback to the original episode, one of the original episodes, where just to give Frenchie that moment to go, girls do get it done. Like it's beyond that. It's also giving the female her redemption, her redemptive arc, her revenge arc. I suppose you could say it's redemption in her mind to a degree for her freezing with Stormfront. It's Annie getting to take down the person who's taking her down to free herself from the Seven, which doesn't work, but we'll get to that later. And it's Queen Maeve going, no, I am going to help this person. I am going to be the Wonder Woman. I'm going to be the Amazonian queen who is supposed to actually do good. So strangely enough, like, it is interesting that Hughie gets told to shut up, but it's, again, Annie, it's probably his and partially Annie's conversation that twists things, that changes this one point. The only bit I don't get, how did she find them?
I think John's right. I think the moment when Stormfront arrives back at Vault Towers after hearing the reveal that all the Nazi information has been let out there is when Maeve kind of triggers and goes, uh-oh, she's about to go do something here, and she's following Stormfront. I don't think she's looking for the boys necessarily, but she knows that Stormfront is on the warpath for some reason. So I think she's following Stormfront. I think that's where that's the connection. So
I think you guys are right.
Because remember, she does arrive a little bit later than the battle starts because she can't fly. So she
jumps really high.
maybe she's the Jessica Jones of this world.
Yes, exactly. No, they just they would have needed to. I think they should have explained that. I really think they should have.
Would have taken away the surprise of her being right behind her.
I think
was so exciting.
Yeah, I think they explained it in that brief glance. I think you don't want to put massive exposition on why Queen Maeve turns up.
But you also want that surprise. You want that exciting moment.
Exactly.
You know? The Batman v Superman.
No, they could have just done it after, I meant.
Maybe.
Anyway, continue. Yeah. So I think we move on to Derek's protagonist.
Sorry, Chris. Yeah, you were saying you have Queen in your head. I once again have Billy Joel in my head. Only the Good Die Young, which is the Billy Joel theme throughout this episode, where we have Starlight and Hughie finally getting back together. I took this as my protagonist moment because we've been talking about it all season as to whether they would actually get back together, whether they'd be drawn apart, and they address it in the episode here. Yeah, they actually have, they have their moment in the car, and he finally explains why Billy Joel is the most important singer to him. It's because he lost his mom, or his mom walked out on them when he was younger. And she used to play music, and it was the only time he felt happy when he was younger, was when he was dancing with his mom. So there's a little connection there again between Annie and Hughie, But I just wanted to really talk about that final scene because it's a kind of a repetition of their real moments throughout the series. It's always Annie and Hughie who are sitting on the bench in the park. It's never Starlight and Hughie of the boys who are sitting together. They're not against each other. When they have those moments from the first time they met back in episode 1 of season 1, when they were both on the bench talking to each other, it was just as normal humans. And right now, at the end of the series, the end of the second season anyway, we have this moment where the two of them are sharing what they truly feel and where they truly believe they belong, effectively. Starlight saying she still feels she belongs in Vault Tower, because if you let the a-hole drive the boat, then the ship's going to sink and you're going to be blaming them. But if you're on board the boat and help steer it, then maybe it can go the right way, is her explanation. Roughly. I'm definitely paraphrasing there because I didn't write it down. But she's basically saying that she's terrified to be in Homelander's presence, but she's going to do it because somebody has to. And she's going to step up because of Hughie telling her that he feels like he maybe stays around too long for things. And that's maybe always been his way, is to be too clinging on to everything around him. And I love the conversation. I just love how it twists, and we have that wonderful little line from Starlight, or from Annie, saying, "Oh, okay, well, I guess we can just be friends." And he's like, "No, you. I'm definitely clinging on to you forever. I'm definitely not letting you go." It's a lovely little moment. They kiss again. So we have their relationship resolved, I think, here, where they're now together properly, as everything kind of ends for the boys at the end of this season.
No, and I think you're right. Like, this was the meet cute moment of the season. The will they, won't they won't, the Ross to Rachel, and that I analogized them as before. No, I was happy the way that they kind of just ended this, because I did. As an audience as well, you went, oh, he's ending it. And then it was just like, oh, no, I'm clinging to you. And you're like, that was nice.
See, really cute. Really cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked this whole thing between Starlight and Hughie. You know, that tension has now gone. Yeah. Hughie is not going to let her slide or drop her. I really like that moment at the end. So, yeah, I'm just glad that these two are together.
Exactly.
I suspect Starlight might go off and burn the Billy Joel collection that he's built up, but nonetheless,
just leave it beside the radiator. That's all it needs to do. Chris, do you want to take us on to your antagonist moment for the episode, the 7 moment?
Sure. We talked about the girls getting it done, and how they went to town. Well, I want to talk about the actual the Stormfront going full Nazi throughout this episode. She really does. So, and initially with Ryan, when she's with Homelander, talking about white genocide.
There's certainly a look from Homelander there that he's realizing, hang on a second. Like, I know that he's subscribed to her, to whatever she says. Basically, he's kind of like first girlfriend, as we mentioned before. He's kind of going along with her opinions. But when she says that to Ryan, you can tell there's a moment where he's going, "Ooh, hang on a second. I wasn't sure. I didn't think she was going for white people are being persecuted and people are going to kill us for the color of our skin."
Yeah.
Okay. What's she talking about? You know.
And that was a truly scary moment in any show I've watched in 2020. Just because it's again exactly like the shopkeeper moment with the radicalization of in the previous episode.
Absolutely.
This was just another, this is hitting home. Oof. And I was like, okay, well, look, they're doing it once. It's fine. They're using it as a teachable moment, and you're seeing Homelander go slightly backing, like, let's move this conversation on.
Exactly.
To where you see it get to when Stormfront faces off against Annie, and Annie's going like, well, no, you're out. Like, everyone knows you're a Nazi. Fake news.
Yeah.
The amazing what you can do with Photoshop.
Did you send all these lies out about me? I think she says to Annie, and Annie's like, they're not lies. You know these are true.
Well, that's it. Like she says, people believe in what I say. People just don't like the word Nazi. And that's it. It's that distancing of that association with these extreme right-wing groups is that they don't even mind white supremacy, it would seem. It's that don't use the word Nazi, because of course that is absolutely where you end up if people like this win. And it was interesting that, that's exactly the counter argument that Stormfront was trying to do. And then, the whole fake news. And again, this just suspicious, theories, all about people are against you, even though you're the one that has the privilege. It's just absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
We are recording this a couple of days ahead of release. So it releases on the 9th of October. In the United States, there was a presidential debate, and a radicalized group was mentioned and essentially not denounced. And that radicalized group themselves, because I'm not even going to mention them because they don't deserve it, but they took it as a call to arms, as a whatever, and then when people started actually referring to them and their beliefs, going, "No, you're just Nazis." Yeah. No. We're not Nazis.
Exactly.
And no. Like we believe in this, and this, which the Nazis believed in. No. The difference is we're American, but you still have Nazi ideologies. No.
They've probably got all the memorabilia and all that kind of crap, and it's like the only way you should call them by their name, which is the Proud Boys, is if you're doing a Twitter counter, which was awesome.
It was amazing.
Let's have gay men kissing, lesbians kissing.
Everyone.
The Proud Boys are, under the rainbow flag, not the swastika.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And the reason I only mention this is because I was watching this, and those lines, again, this was filmed
last summer.
Yeah. This was written probably
a year and a half ago.
About that now. You say probably some small script edits during filming. There was no there was no post audio drops where they kind of added her kind of saying a line after that.
Yeah.
After would they pan off to a different side, so you don't have to see her lips moving or anything like that. So again, just a scary clairvoyant hat tip.
Well, yeah.
To the writers going, you manage in a superhero show about evil superheroes and swearing and gore and blood and guts just to really, like get it there with the story.
I certainly think they were aiming for around the time of the election to have this show ended. Definitely, without a doubt. Like they knew what they had. This, as we said before, earlier on this season, there was no doubt this is where it was going from last year or the year before or the year before that. So very impressive overall. This is a full Nazi Stormfront that we get in this episode. Yeah. She's there. She's definitely gone further than ever. But everything has now been revealed to the world as well. So very interesting.
Yeah, as I said in my synopsis, dishing the dirt on that Nazi lady has never tasted so sweet. You can see how they enjoyed that. And it's dishing the dirt. She's done it. It's not fake news. It's not made up.
Exactly. John, what's your antagonist moment for the episode?
Well, there is a long tradition of this in superhero movies. We have Tim Burton's Batman. We've got Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming. Okay. And speaking of coming, we have the Homelander bat symbol moment with the nighttime jerk, both literally and, dare I say it, metaphorically. I thought this was really good. Everyone talks about Vulture in Homecoming going up to the moon, silhouetted on the moonlight. And it was brilliant. This to take it in that direction was simply phenomenal. I have to say. And I think
you are right. It is an absolute trope of superhero movies. It's superhero in the costume.
Well, it is now.
But superhero in their costume, standing on like a gargoyle, looking over the city they protect, effectively.
Yeah,
but he's doing a lot more than that.
He really, really is. But
whatever he wants, really.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I think what's really great about the scene is it's got the shock, it's got the boys thing about it with him jerking off on top of the skyscraper, but it's the fact that he is also saying, you know, I can do anything, and it kind of connects back to the Queen Maeve moment. It connects back to, you know, when Chris and yourself was talking about Homelander's reaction when Stormfront talked about white supremacy and white genocide. It's the idea that at his heart, this guy is a pure, out and out narcissist. That trumps any other thing that he has.
Like the choice of words there, don't
you know, it really, really does. It is about him. He wants the adulation, and he will do anything, because you see how he slots back into the Vought press conference. Yes, I know the bat symbol came after that, and you know, not that I had really kind of picked up on that, but this potential idea of a breakdown and a meltdown in season 3. Certainly I can see that now that you've said it. But it's his ability to be that chameleon of whoever he needs to be was really kind of phenomenal in the sense, you know, he's up there, and without really anything much, you know, he talks about Starlight being wrongfully accused, that Stormfront, you know, betrayed everyone that trust in superheroes. I like how it then becomes a collection of the noise of the audience and the crowd there as it gets lost, his words. But at its heart, Homelander is a narcissist before everything else. And I think the really interesting aspect of Homelander is that it is the moments with Ryan where you see something possibly genuine, whether it's him looking a little bit awkward with Stormfront talking about the white genocide. But, you know, he does have that really kind of nice little moment with Ryan where Ryan gets overwhelmed and he takes him off, and, you know, they have the conversation about crying, and he says how he cried and that he had to figure it out all by himself. And you see that moment where he talks, the doctors that brought me, the people that looked after me. That's the Homelander I think he probably wants to be, but the years of scarring, the years, the experience that he's had, he's ultimately a narcissist.
Absolutely.
And I thought this was just really good, and I think it absolutely typified by his jerky bat symbol right at the end. I just thought it was so good.
And just to bring it back through the season, that does mean that Doppelganger was right. Doppelganger, who got killed for saying to Homelander, you know, I can pleasure you, I can take care of you, I can be you, which is what you want because you're a narcissist, effectively. He got killed for saying that to him, but at the end of the season here, it's effectively showing that that's exactly what he is. One other thing you mentioned there about the conversation between himself and Ryan, where he says, you know, he cried, and then he does that little macho thing and goes, oh, I only did it once, and then I became a man. I never cried again, of course. But, but he does cry at that moment when Maeve says to him, I'll take away, your ability to be loved by anybody. I'm almost sure you can see a tear in his eye, and then he stops himself.
Yeah, and I think so. And I think you can also see the anguish with the fact that Ryan picks Billy to go to. And that's where the breakdown, because, and where I would agree, and I just hadn't really kind of connected that because it's absolutely at odds with him jerking off into the void off the top of a skyscraper saying, I can do anything, because he didn't in that moment. He couldn't. Whether it was with Queen Maeve, whether it was keeping his son, whether it was doing what he wanted to do with Stormfront, he hasn't been able to do anything. And it's that disconnect that may just fracture his fragile little mind.
Exactly. A good point there, John. Yeah, definitely. It's a weird one. I cannot remember whether I saw this in the comic book, because as I said before, I haven't read all the comics. I've read some of them. I cannot remember whether I heard it in an interview with Anthony Starr at some point, but when this scene came on, I was going, oh, they've done that on the TV show. But I cannot remember why I know that. I can't remember whether it was maybe in the first issue of the comic we see Homelander doing it or something. I just cannot remember. I wish Chris was able to stay for the full episode, so I could have asked him about that. It's unfortunate. But
well, yes, Chris's corner will be sadly missing Chris, or lacking it in a Chris to do Chris's corner. Yes, indeed, yes. But well, yeah, exactly. But let's leave on that image of two duck eggs in a handkerchief. Derek, what is your antagonist moment?
I'm just going straight on to the next scene, actually. It ties in almost directly after the scene where we have Homelander's eyes on screen as he's saying all these lies, all these things he doesn't believe in, and the crowd noise is surging. And then we hear the other end of that conversation, what he's actually saying, that, you know, justice will prevail kind of thing. He's saying that, and we see A-Train and the Deep in the House of the Collective, because I really would just want to talk about the fact that A-Train's got his place back in the Seven.
He really does, yeah.
And the way he got his place back in the Seven is actually by giving up Stormfront. So we saw in this episode that he broke in and got the files out from the Collective, these files that they keep on all their former members. So I thought that was really interesting that, that's the way that it's done. I loved when we were watching the episode and Stan Edgar's in the room, with the leader, of the Collective, Alistair Adana. And John noticed that something had just flashed by the screen, but couldn't tell what it was.
Yeah, and the napkin sort of moved, ruffled in a breeze. Yeah.
So it's a great directorial moment there to have that little clue there that A-Train's running around basically in the background, and all that's happening is that he's moving a little bit of a napkin to give you an indication. So I like this. I love that, you know, A-Train gets his role back in here in the Seven because of what he did. So we now have Maeve, Starlight, and A-Train, all who kind of are very unhappy with Homelander, and Homelander's still the leader of the Seven. So we now have three reasonably good-ish people besides Homelander. They may have all done bad things in the past, but they're all three people that probably won't allow Homelander to get away with everything that he wants, despite what he did in your antagonist moment. But we unfortunately get poor Deep once again being shunned, as Alistair Adana basically says, well, you know, if we get one back, it's a redemptive arc. If we get two back, then it's weakness for the Seven. So your job is gone. And I love his reaction to it. I love the Deep just kind of going, hang on a second. The only reason that I did everything you asked me to do was because you told me you get back in the Seven. And Adana, again, is saying to him, well, just take a few more courses, you know, which is the Deep saying to him, I'm going to have to pay you even more money, you know. Yeah. And we find out how the extent of this society, the extent of their reach and the extent of the things they've done to the Deep. They made him sign over his bank account. They talked to him. We mentioned before in the show, and Chris was specifically calling it out, you know, he was trying to work out how they would wrap in the alien origin of Scientology into the show, and they did it right here. You hear the Deep going, when I heard we were all alien creatures or alien eggs landed, I didn't laugh at you for that stupid thought. I'm out kind of thing. I love that Adana twists it once again with that statement of effectively, you're being aggressive kind of thing, which means that Adana's about to tear him down. You know, your personality is toxic, exactly. Which means he's about to tear him down, effectively. If he doesn't get out of there, he'll suffer the same fate as Eagle the Archer suffered. And they probably have a lot of material on the Deep. He also does call out, he's been married to a psycho, I think it's what he says. So Deep's had to go through a lot and is still not back in the Seven from season 1. He's still off on his own. If we get a season, well, when we get a season 3 of the show, the Deep is still now friendless as well, because A-Train effectively takes his job and just gets out of there.
Yeah, he's kind of like see you laters. Yep. But I mean, as well, I like that, you know, the Deep kind of doesn't really have anywhere to go, because it's like he doesn't go over to kind of tear the throat out of Alistair Adana, but his passing shot is, F fresca to Adana. That's his favorite drink. That's why we've been seeing it all this time.
Why
it is just, that's his favorite drink. We see
like
Edgar also reject it when he's there for his meeting with him. And that's presumably why they're all just handing it out. Like,
I was trying to work out what it is about Fresca specifically. Like, is it just that it's not one of those big brands? It's just one of those things that is a little bit innocuous, it's a little bit boring as a drink kind of thing. Perhaps he has some kind of deal with Fresca's sponsorship for the collective. So, perhaps that's it. But that's all I wanted to talk about really, was just A-Train getting back in the 7 and the Deep is still 8, because they are 2 members of the 7. It's been very hard this season to keep to the antagonist, protagonist moments that we forced on ourselves at the start of season 1, because everybody's kind of been a bit of a movable feast. Everybody's been moving back and forth between what we'd call the antagonist and protagonist. But those 2 members we'd still consider them part of the
Definitely.
Kind of. And Chris is back with us again to share some final thoughts. Chris, do you want to take us on with your outstanding moment from the episode?
Sure. So back in the beginning, 25 years ago, 28 months and 4 days, which when we started recording this episode, or not this episode, this season, and time is fluid and timey-wimey in a big circle.
It's only been like 6 weeks, man.
Exactly. Feels like longer. I made a prediction, and I'm going to give myself half points. Okay. I made a prediction that we're going to lose Becca. I made a prediction that Ryan would get angry enough because Homelander was killing her, that would fire off his powers, and he would push or blow Homelander away from his mum. So I'm kind of gonna call it. Like, I get half points on this.
Okay.
Kind of for this theory. Come on, give me half points at least. Ryan did blow. It wasn't Homelander. It was Stormfront.
You definitely said his powers were going to come into play and they would be instrumental. I kind of felt that was more directed at Homelander, but I definitely, 50% for sure.
Okay.
If not 75.
Passing marks.
After a few wines, 75%.
I was like 25 to 50. Okay. All right. We'll cut the balance and say, it's 50.
You can have this one, but you've got to be lenient on me next time I claim something.
Excellent.
Okay.
Deal?
Definitely.
Excellent. Cool.
Definitely. I know I also said that I would be done if Becca got killed. Because that just, I couldn't.
Yeah.
They did that.
Yeah.
But they did it tastefully with her goodbye. I'm gonna give them that. Like, they were tasteful on it. Still not exactly sure how she died.
It was kind of like a heavenly light, wasn't it? So it was kind of tasteful in that they didn't see.
So it wasn't seen on screen, but we see from Stormfront, she has no arms. She was
and no legs.
But her arms were around the throat of Becca. So the beam that was cast by Ryan seems to have cut her throat. Yeah. Or either that, or her throat was ripped out, maybe by Stormfront.
Yeah, I was thinking rip out.
Nobody can know, because the only person that maybe saw it, could Ryan possibly have seen it when lasers were coming out of his eyes? I don't know, but he seems to be taking the blame for it anyway. So even if he did see it, he sees that it was him. But maybe the lasers cut through her arms and cut through the neck of his mother, because she didn't explode or anything. He didn't hit her by the looks of things, because the only damage to her was her throat. But that's where the arm.
Yeah, I mean, Stormfront looked pretty burnt as well, and yet Becca wasn't. So maybe Stormfront kind of did shield her to some extent, being in the blast, but because Ryan's not got that focus or control, he should have listened to his dad, Homelander. He should have been practicing. Then, maybe it was just the bit that was caught in the heavenly light, but at least she saw a bright light as she went, as it darkened.
Well, exactly. But remember, Homelander's real guidance was, what helps me is focusing on someone that I actually hate, and then when I can pinpoint that, then I can use my powers. Well, Ryan had never learned to hate before. Now he learned to hate right here. He found Stormfront. So that was the line that was dropped to come back later on in the episode, basically.
Yeah, I'll close it. I'll close it out on this point in this outstanding moment for me, because they've removed the driving force behind Butcher to a degree. They basically, she was dead. He was there to avenge it.
Absolutely.
She died. Sorry, she came back. He lost her anyway. He can't really avenge her death because the death was by Stormfront.
Absolutely. Or the death was by Vought, or the death was by was by V. I'm going to talk about my point later on, Chris. I know you can't stay, so I'll give you a quick prelude to it. I think the lay down here from Mallory that there is an option for Billy to go after Soups if he wants to, and him putting on his shades and walking away without giving any answer or any acknowledgement that that's what's going to happen. I think that's exactly what you're saying. He has no motivation as such, but he does have the ability. So if he does want to go after them for not a personal reason, just to save the world, he still has that open to him for the next season. So
yeah, no, I think what they'll do is he's going to become some form of super police oversight, and he'll do it because he just hates those super C words.
Exactly.
Yes.
I think with the death of Becca as well, that's kind of my outstanding moment. But in this case, it's Stormfront, because I've kind of mentioned it. You know, she is pretty destroyed here. Oh, yes. She's got her feet off, her hands are off, her shins are off, her forearms are off. So she really is in a bad way. Interesting that Compound V doesn't make her limbs grow back, or maybe not yet. Well, because weirdly, we see her babbling kind of incomprehensibly in German after losing all of this. It's like she's reverted back to her happy days in Nazi Germany.
We were saying that we know when this episode comes out on Amazon Prime on Friday. As we mentioned, we're recording a little bit early. We know there's going to be subtitles for those German. They have done in the past. They've just done like speaks German when this has happened, so they haven't translated it into words. But I'm wondering whether she says something like, "I was supposed to bring balance to the force" or something like that.
it could be. I mean, I felt like I was catching some German of the little German that I know, like Erstmal, so Erstmal first, and there was, I'm sure she said apple as well. I thought she said apfel.
Okay, so first apple.
So I don't know, or the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I think may have been said. But it's, we
only spent 2.5 years in Switzerland, a country that predominantly speaks some form of German.
I think it's just, she's really has fallen here. I mean, even when Homelander arrives, he's kind of just looking down at her, and ultimately, he's not going to date that. Dare I say, he's not going to do anything else with that. And so, he's lost interest, no compassion for her whatsoever. His focus is now on Ryan. So Stormfront really is completely sort of excluded and disowned by Vought as well. I think it's really interesting we have the conversation between Edgar and Billy Butcher as well, where Billy brings up Stormfront, and Edgar absolutely knows the danger that she poses to him.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's all about money for him. It's all about the stock and the share prices. So I thought that was really interesting.
But you even hear from Stormfront her saying, "Oh, he's very smart for one of their
No,
kind,"
exactly.
as well.
So
there's definitely animosity between Edgar and Stormfront, and I guess he didn't have any opportunity of taking her out as such, and still maintaining the profit share, the profit margins that he's going for effectively is the thing.
Well, as he said,
he is truly evil.
She, as he said, she knows how to sell things, in that sense, and be persuasive. But Stormfront here, absolutely, taken out by Ryan's beams.
Just in case anybody didn't get my reference, I was saying that she looked like Anakin Skywalker after he got all of his limbs cut off by Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Really did, like, she had just been on Mustafar for sure.
Or just at the end of Return of the Jedi, that kind of burnt head and no limbs of Darth Vader, that kind of thing.
No, exactly. And I think The only thing is, with all the kind of wrap-ups that we had at the end of this season, we don't see what happens to her. So as far as I'm concerned, she potentially is still on the forest floor somewhere, in the, in rural America.
Mm-hmm. The speech from Homelander, I think, says that she's in an undisclosed location. She's being held in an undisclosed location, which probably means, the cell that Annie was held in, potentially she's in somewhere around there. So yeah, depending on her healing ability, which could be substantial considering she's over 100, well, she's 100 years old.
Which is bulletproof.
She's bulletproof. She could have some good old healing powers as well.
There must be some kind of regenerative ability if she's not wrinkling.
Well, exactly, Tom. So we may well see Stormfront back after a lot of regeneration and maybe some skin grafts.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of the wrap up for season 2 and setups for season 3, just wanted to quickly kind of round it all up as we get to the end of our major moments. So my outstanding moments really are the kind of end of everything. We've already talked about where Annie and Hughie end up. Annie is ending up going back to Volterra. She's part of the Seven again. Hughie actually goes off to work for the campaign of Newman. He goes to get a job with the new Senator Newman, which I'll also talk about in a second. But that was quite interesting. He's effectively given up his position. The boy says he's never fit in there in the entire time that they've been together. So he's going off to get a legitimate job with taking down the Supes the right way. Oh dear, poor Hughie, walking himself into trouble once again.
I know.
Mentioned earlier on about Mallory giving the offer to Billy, saying that Newman's actually going to be siphoning off some money from her campaign to allow them to fight the Supes with some actual funding, effectively. So there is an option there for him to join the boys and bring the boys together, again to fight Supes. But Billy puts on the glasses and walks away. We mentioned Ryan obviously has gone off into the care of Mallory. But it looks like we probably, comic book wise, I think if I'm right in saying this, we're kind of going back to a situation where Mallory's willing to lead a new team of the boys going after the Supes. Is kind of where we are with that team towards the end of the episode. Then we have Mother's Milk going back to his family, finally getting back there after all the time away. So we know his daughter and his wife are in the house that he's knocking on the door to go in. We don't see the reaction of his wife, who seemed to have kicked him out because he was in the boys. That's kind of, I know he's on the run as well, of course, but they were having relationship difficulties, let's say, when we last saw them in season 1. And then he's obviously on the run in season 2. So that's quite interesting. Frenchie and Kimiko are going off
dancing,
yes, they're finally going off dancing. So I love the kind of build of their relationship in this episode, well, throughout the season, of course,
definitely,
but definitely in this episode there's some lovely little interplay between the two of them where Kimiko's saying to him, you can definitely dance if you have those kind of moves. That's kind of cool. I
think Kimiko and Frenchie's relationship has been really good, from a complete breakdown to one where he's now learning her sign language. So, maybe they're sparking up a bit of a relationship here for sure. That goes beyond friends.
Yeah, I'm still wondering, still not putting it on the table out there on the show itself. But there does seem to be a very close friendship in there between the two of them. Is that everybody? Is that all of our major cast except for one character that I haven't mentioned?
I think you've got to do the big surprise.
Yeah, I'm gonna close out with newly crowned Senator Newman taking down the leader of the collective. So I really liked, I suppose, the setup of that part of it. So that was just after the scene that we had A-Train and the Deep. We have Senator Newman kind of being contacted by this religious organization looking for, a 40% tax break that they get for being a religious organization. And if she gives that up, then she'll definitely get their support. And then the head explodes. So we were totally wrong in our idea that it could be the escaped patient, Cindy, that would be blowing up the heads of all the people involved. We didn't know what was going on, but effectively it's a politician using these abilities to get her through a political minefield, I guess. It would be the way that I would see it.
It is. It is Victoria Newman, Senator Newman. I thought this was a really great surprise right at the end. I love the cloudy eyes, and she's just there outside of the building that Adana is there after having that phone call with her. And, you know, she's being very political. And then, yes, pop goes his head. Blood everywhere. You know, the brains of the space spores everywhere. And this was really good and I think just because we've seen Hughie going in, taking or getting the job in the senator's office, in her campaign office. So it really kind of is nice and tantalizing for season 3, to be honest, as to, you know, Hughie being, you know, at the coalface of danger, I suppose. Really good. I think that's what you always want, is that nice little cliffhanger in a sense. So I suppose it's more of a surprise than a cliffhanger. Because I actually felt the whole season wrapped up everyone's story a bit. It did feel like, you know, if they weren't going to get a season 3, this was a really good ending. But with, you know, as you say, with Mallory's offer, with what we now know of Victoria Newman, it really does help to lead in for a season 3 and for that to be developed. And even with Homelander, if he's going to have a breakdown, because a soup with a breakdown, that will be pretty interesting too.
Absolutely, especially one that can kill the entire planet.
Yeah.
I think that's it for all of our points about the episode. As we mentioned, Chris unfortunately couldn't stay for too long this episode, so no Chris's Corner this time. We'll hopefully have a Chris's Corner on our roundup episode. Overall, John, what did you think of the finale of The Boys Season 2, Episode 8?
Really liked it. I give it 4.5 nervous Twinkie guys with a moist handshake out of 5. I thought this was a really nice wrap up to the season. I thought it dispatched the baddie. It kept the baddie in Homelander. It's set up for season 3 with the tantalizing surprise of Victoria Newman. I thought Anthony Starr was great, as always, and I loved Carl Urban here. You know, his double cross in the name of his dead brother to his wife, and the redemption of that. The girls getting it done was just a great little nod, and I really liked Queen Maeve's arc in this as well. But, you know, and yeah, what can we say but the iconic bat symbol for Homelander, a jerk both literally and metaphorically, is great, for sure. So yeah, absolutely loved this final episode, and I really can't wait for season 3. Like, 4.5 nervous Twinkie guys with a moist handshake out of 5.
Excellent.
Derek, what did you think?
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Have to give a shout out to Akash this season as Stormfront. I think she's been so fantastic from those first couple of episodes where we were all kind of in love with this new wisecracking kind of character, as she turned and made the twist into this Nazi, and just played it so great right up into the end. Really, really enjoyed her role in the show. Great additional character to add to the season. So overall, yeah, really enjoyed it. I know we're going to talk about the season again as we go into our wrap-up episode, as I mentioned. Chris, what did you think of the finale of The Boys?
I loved this. I really, really did. This for me was just fantastic. It was a great ending, enough gasp, clutch your pearl moments, sprinkled with some, as I talked about, on point writing that's scarily accurate in 2020, with some emotional, dramatic scenes, with humor, with we didn't even talk about Frenchie dancing with the female, like it's just and it also sets up just enough for season 3 that I'm like, I did not see where they were going with that. And I was like, bravo. I was just, yeah.
Excellent stuff, Chris. We will be back to talk about The Boys again when we do our season 2 wrap-up episode in a couple of weeks' time and give out our award for our pub quiz question. But I know you've got to go, Chris, so thanks so much for joining us for this season. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with you. I know we'll continue on with the podcast and talk about the feedback from our awesome listeners as well.
Yes, thank you so much, fellow boys and girls, and we'll see you soon.
With that, we'll let Chris go, and we'll go on to the pub quiz for this week. John, let's go for a pint.
Absolutely. I think we all need a good old pint after a great season 2 of The Boys. Yeah, let's get ratted and talk about The Boys at the pub quiz. Question 8 from episode 8. What should you remember to do in the event of a supervillain attack at school?
Ooh, very good. Right at the beginning of the episode.
Yes. What is the acronym and what do the letters of that acronym mean? Yes. Just a quick repeat there. What should you remember and do in the event of a supervillain attack at school? As brought to us by Homelander and a random sheriff.
I've heard they're getting more and more common over and over again. It's going to happen inevitably to everybody, John. That's what I heard.
Exactly. But please send your answers in to feedback at TV Podcast Industries. If you haven't already done any of the previous 7 questions, you can send in your full complement of 8 questions to the email address. We will be reading out the answers for each episode in our final roundup podcast on The Boys, where we will also be announcing the winner, who is in for a treat with a range of goodies, The Boys goodies, that include the collected first volume, as well as The Boys t-shirt, and there will be one other prize. We're just looking for a drinking-related prize for the third and final goodie for whoever comes top of the pub quiz.
Absolutely, yes. Email in your answers to all 8 questions, or as many of them as possible, to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or pop over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. Look for the spoiler posts for The Boys, and you'll see the question in there for each episode. Stick your answer in there, and we'll stick you in the pot for the winners at the end of the season. If you can try and get your answers in before the 14th of October, we'll hopefully be recording our roundup of The Boys season 2 around that stage, so you should be in with a chance to win some lovely Boys goodies. Let's get on to some feedback. I think it's time. Yeah, feedback for episode 7, the penultimate episode of The Boys. First up, we have an email from Jimbo Urin. He says, making sure to get my feedback in time for the last episode, as this week really was a huge opening and closing episode. Like yourselves, I wanted to talk more about the wider social commentary that the characters this week, as I happened to watch this one on the same weekend as The Social Dilemma on Netflix, which if you've not seen, I'd highly recommend it. Although, if you don't get a chance, it is pretty much an extended docudrama of the first few minutes of this episode, and equally terrifying view of the world. As for the closing scenes, although there were similarities to the end of Kingsman, which I think has been mentioned on the podcast before, the difference here is there is still a mystery as to what's caused the headbanging. And whilst I guess we may find out next week, these guys just keep us guessing. I feel they just keep doubling down on this show. Like someone comes into the writer's room saying, you will never guess what someone suggested for the next episode. And the response is, right, how do we outdo this? All in all, I'm really looking forward to seeing where they do end up taking this show. P.S. After my comments last time, I did come around a bit more to Sean Ashmore, as his video scenes were a lot of fun with some fantastic titles that I probably can't mention on the podcast. But if I can mention one, Deep Does It in the Blowhole is probably a standout. So it is a shame Lamplighter is no more, but a good exit nonetheless. All the best, Jimbo. Jimbo, we let you away with putting one of the titles in there. I saw a great tweet the other day from Eric Kripke, the showrunner of the show, who was saying that they actually filmed a lot of porn scenes for those porn videos that that Lamplighter was watching, and was wondering whether you could release them to whatever porn site is out there. But Amazon were not happy for that to happen.
Thanks so much, Jimbo.
Jimbo.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I can just imagine how much fun that writer's room is to not only outdo one another with regards to grossness, violence, just out and out shocking scenes, but also then how they interweave that with, like you said right at the start, with the social commentary aspects. It's just like incredibly good writing and performance. So yeah, completely agree. Thanks, Jimbo.
Absolutely. Haven't watched Social Dilemma yet, but everybody's been recommending it to me. I just feel like I'm going to cut myself off from the entire world if I cut myself off from social media while in lockdowns. So I don't know whether I'm watching it anytime soon. But thanks so much for the recommendation, Jimbo.
Yeah, thanks again, Jimbo. Over on our Facebook group, Donald Dennis said, wow, they should have called episode 7 Pop Goes the Weasel. Indeed, they should have, Donald. Salima Kisler on Facebook also says, R.I.P. Lamplighter, we hardly knew ye. Man, I thought this episode was light on the action for a penultimate until Lamplighter setting himself on fire and setting off that chain of events. Someone in Vought HR really dropped the ball not deactivating his clearance. Then what can I say about the courtroom scene? Did anyone else think Vogelbaum's chair was going to explode? Of course, what did happen was more the boys' style. Was that Cindy making people's heads explode? I'm not sure why she would be helping Vought. Totally with you there, Salim. The church sure did turn on Eagle the Archer fast. I'm not sure Deep got the message, but that seems like a warning to A-Train, who was already skeptical. Well, interestingly, after this episode, Salim, it's not A-Train that needs to worry about being turned on. Unfortunately, the Deep got the wrong end of the fresca from the Church of the Collective, and it is A-Train who is speeding his way back to Vought. Finally, Salim just had an edit. I forgot to mention Maeve's tree nut fueled rescue. I couldn't tell if Black Noir is dead or out of commission. My initial sense was the latter, but if he's alive, he's got to come for Maeve and out her as a traitor, right? Well, interesting. Completely. But what we do learn in this episode is that he is in a coma. And the suggestion from Homelander, and it's probably more just him flippantly saying it, that he's effectively brain dead. So it might not be that bad, but he has certainly not sort of taken well to having Almond Joy thrust down his throat.
Certainly hasn't. Thanks so much for your thoughts, Salim. Really good to hear it.
Thanks so much, Salim. Also on Facebook, Dr. Bob Phillips says, can they really get to the end from here in just one more episode? What a cracker. And to pick up just 3 moments, well, the most evil part has to be child abduction. Biology doesn't make you a parent. Stealing a child is very much wrong. The best goodie moment, Hughie hacking off the immolated hand of Lamplighter to escape from the tower. An outstanding moment, just Maeve, at home with takeout, in bed despairing, feeding the dark the nut of doom. Indeedly, doodly, the nut of doom comes to haunt the Black Noir, for sure. Yes, and I think, well, the answer is they have certainly wrapped it up here in this final episode, but with some tantalizing tentacles being threaded out for the next season. But absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I think probably the thing that probably put us off the trail was because everybody, I think, that I saw comment on this about the episode was saying Cindy was possibly involved in the head explosions.
Yeah.
And if you have to wrap Cindy into the story in the last episode, if you have to wrap her back in and find out her motivations and why she's doing what she's doing and why she chose the people that she was going to kill and all that kind of stuff, then suddenly you have a big story to tell. Whereas with Newman, they're able to go, she's a senator or she's a person that wants to get into government, and we all understand her story. We all understand what she wants to gain from it, kind of thing. You know, she wants power, and that's why she's killing the people around her. Whereas if it was just a revenge thing from Cindy, you'd probably introduce her in like episode 4 or 5 to tell that story.
Well, I think it's like Salim said. I mean, when we discussed it on the last podcast, there was something not quite right as to why she would be helping Vought.
Exactly.
Why she would be doing that, given what they had done to her, and that she was seemingly escaping. So unless she'd been caught again, and there was some way that Vought could control her, or it was just revenge, but then you feel it would be Edgar Vogelbaum, who obviously was head smashed, and it would even be all the soups rather than going after just randomers. So it's a good point. Absolutely.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that, Dr. Bob. Jamie Alexander says, "Hoo boy, I knew the hearing would be interesting, but that was mind-blowing." Well done, Jamie. Final piece of feedback we had over on our Facebook group, on our page, actually, just to call it out, because I thought it was quite funny. Dave Harrick says, "Guys, how you keep to PG language while covering a show like The Boys is truly outstanding. It's your superpower." I'm telling you, this is the most difficult series to do. I know we've been skirting the line of what we can talk about and what we can say on the podcast, but I think, you know, the show itself is a show for adults only anyway, so Amazon does push it, but it's just purely for us. We can't keep it going over PG, or else the episode itself will be pulled, and that pulls our entire feed, as we've said before on the podcast. So we are keeping it as, that's the only reason we're keeping it PG, but the actual content, I'm sure you understand, is about a show that should only be watched by adults.
It's like a deep sea diver rising up from the deep after many moments down underwater. We go to our decompression chamber and we swear like crazy.
Absolutely. Welcome to Dublin. Thanks to everybody that's been sharing their feedback over in our Facebook group. Thanks so much for joining us throughout the season. Hopefully, the next show that we cover, you'll be as interested in as The Boys.
Yeah, thanks so much everyone for the feedback, and thanks Jamie and Dave as well there for those last 2 bits.
Absolutely. We do have one last piece of feedback from Steve Brown on episode 7 of season 2 of The Boys. He sent us a voicemail once again. Thanks, Steve.
Hey guys, it's Steve, and this is for The Boys season 2 episode 7, Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker, which, you know, I don't know if it's a play on, is Tinker Tailor Soldier Sailor, is that the same kind of thing? But then there's a John le Carré novel, you know, that's Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Anyway, I don't know if it's a play on that, but I just want to make a statement before I finish this second watch through, that when you watch it the first time and you've had some beverages, and then you don't send a voicemail after that one, and you watch it the second time, it's a little surreal, because there's like scenes that you're like, I think I recognize this, but I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly how it turns out. You know, not me saying for a friend. So for my 7 moment, I have to say, I don't know what that weapon was, and I didn't go back and try to watch it again, but whatever Black Noir was swinging when he hit what he hit Starlight with, whoa. Hughie just said, we gotta go now. Okay, I'm off format so much, but wow, John Noble as Billy Butcher's father, just wow. Okay, so just finished the episode. I guess we're set up for next one. Where is Ryan? Where did Stormfront and Homelander take him? You know, is it Cindy who's exploding the heads? Because it doesn't seem likely. It doesn't track that she would be the one. Maybe there's another soup that we don't know about who's doing this head exploding thing that did Raynor. You know, she's like Cindy. I don't know. The next episode, wow, the last one. This was the penultimate. Yeah, that's it. I don't know why they call it that. But, yeah, I can't wait to listen to it. It's queued up next, and I will talk to you later.
Thanks so much, Steve, for your feedback on the episode. I love it. Yes, because this is the ultimate episode of The Boys, the final episode of The Boys. So good to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steve. Gosh, you've had me giggling over penultimate. And yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm not too sure where that word came from, but you are probably closest to figuring out for this episode 8, that it is another superhero causing the head exploding. Don't think we've had that either on the podcast. I think we've all been looking at Cindy. So yeah, good spot there for sure.
Thanks so much once again, Steve. Hopefully we'll get your thoughts on the final episode for our wrap-up podcast in the next week. As John mentioned, make sure you sent in your pub quiz answers in time for that wrap-up episode on the somewhere around the 14th. I think we're recording the 14th of October. So pop in your answer to the pub quiz questions by then, and you get in with a chance of getting some boys goodies.
Yeah, not only will we be back with our pub quiz winner and the wrap-up of Season 2 of The Boys, but you can come and join us over on TV Podcast Industries, the Dreadful Podcast, for our final couple of episodes of Lovecraft Country as well, that we're covering there on HBO Max.
A shockingly good series. Really, really good. Loving Lovecraft Country. Can't wait to see the last couple of episodes of that. Thanks so much for joining us for The Boys, though. I know Season 3 is going to be a long way away because filming hasn't started again, so it could be quite a while before we get back to The Boys Season 3, but it's been an absolute pleasure to be here for this season of The Boys with my lads, John and Chris. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much to the lads, for sure. Thank you so much to our fellow boys and girls. As always, it is a pleasure discussing The Boys with you. And, of course, we can't wait to be back for our next series that we cover, as well as for The Boys Season 3, whenever that may rear its ugly head and wonderful head over the parapet of the COVID-19 battlements. But with that, remember, fellow boys and girls, keep watching, keep listening, and keep moist.
Oh, nice.
Bye.